Hi everybody, this is my ePortfolio for my master's degree. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to start off with just a little bit of information about myself. So looking at why I chose to do this program and kind of what were my goals. So entering this program, I was a second year teacher. At the very beginning of my second year, I knew I wanted a master's degree early on in my career, and this seemed like a good program for me to partake in. There's a video here that really explains all these goals in depth, but I'll just kind of briefly touch on them here. So as far as professionally, some of my shorter term goals, immediately, I want to continue as a classroom teacher right now. I am finishing up my third year right now, and I'm not quite ready to leave the classroom yet. And I think that principals who have been in the classroom for longer are a lot of times better leaders. So I want to stay in the classroom for a little bit longer and then eventually transition to a leadership role. I would say that would be hopefully within the next 5 years or so. For the middle term kind of goals, I'd like to, like I said, be in a leadership role. I'm not exactly sure what leadership role that will end up being. I'm also kind of interested in being an instructional coach. So that could be something that I could be involved in. And then in the long term, I really want to kind of focus more on district leadership. Or the other thing I'd really like to focus on is education policy and activism. So I'm very much an education policy nerd, and I love that. So I would love to focus on that. I also have included my personal goals here. In the short term, I'm looking to relocate to Indiana. In the middle term, I'd really like to travel the world. And then finally, someday I think it'd be really cool after I retire to be involved in a school board. As for my leadership philosophy, this was an assignment that I completed for one of the courses in this module, or not in this module, excuse me, in this program. And my leadership philosophy really is mostly built around being a democratic leader. So I have always been somebody who thinks that leaders are team members first. And the moment that you forget that you're a team member and not just a leader is the moment that you fail as a leader to me. And so I included this quote from M.D. Arnold: "A good leader leads the people from above them. A great leader leads the people from within them." So I think that you really need to surround yourself with other people and be extremely collaborative in nature as a building leader. I did also include, though, information about flexibility here, because I think that some decisions can't be made collaboratively. Sometimes, the principal does need to say, all right, this is the way that things need to be done, and work to get staff buy-in on that. Some decisions can't be made collaboratively, so I realize this, and I know that I'm going to need to be flexible as a building leader in order to be most successful for my staff and for my students. So this is just kind of a really simple graph that I made to show my program of study. The only class that I'm still completing is EDL 853, which is special education. This is my resume as it's loading. This is my resume and just kind of showing my graduation, my work experience, and then a bunch of leadership and additional responsibilities that I've completed. A lot of these I've included in my ePortfolio for the different projects that I've done. So pretty standard resume there. This is my bibliography. I thought this was actually a really interesting assignment. I am a self-described education nerd. I think I maybe mentioned that. And I love reading articles about education. I am constantly reading something about teacher strikes in a different state, or what different state policies are doing and how that affects education. I go crazy for that kind of stuff. So I really like reading educational research. So I actually really liked this assignment. While I was choosing these articles, I tried to kind of create a balance between really good, research-based, data-driven articles that kind of showed different things about education. So one of the things that I was looking at with some of my research articles was does teacher diversity matter? What are principals' views towards inclusive special education? Some of those kind of hard-hitting issues in education, excuse me. I looked at this whole research study about technology and careers and how that relates to how we should be preparing students. So I tried to hit some really hard-hitting research studies, excuse me. I'm a very data-driven person. I like making decisions based on research, so that was why I chose those articles. I also, however, wanted to include some practitioner articles, so I'll see if I can scroll down and find one of those. But I included a couple practitioner articles because I wanted to also think about, what do principals say? So we have all these great research things, but what are principals saying? I think that that's important to look at too. So one of the practitioner articles that I looked at was about discipline. So what is this principal's discipline philosophy with students? Another was from a former principal talking about how she gave teachers negative feedback. So kind of difficult aspects of the job that were things that I was maybe concerned about my ability to do. I wanted practitioner articles about those things. I also talked a lot in this bibliography and a lot in general about the importance of mentoring. One of the research articles was actually about the benefits of having a principal coach. But even if you don't have a physical coach, I think you can still learn a lot from looking at like articles on the internet by experienced principals and what are they doing. So I think that that's a great way to learn. I'm going to kind of talk about my different project areas now. So these are my district activities. I work in the Kansas City, Kansas district, which is a ginormous district. So it was kind of, in some ways, difficult to find areas to be involved in district leadership opportunities, but I managed to create some. This is my favorite project, and if you click on the pictures in my slideshow, you can be directed to all of my projects. So this was a project that I came up with after sitting in a meeting in which every fifth grade teacher from 9 different elementary schools, which all feed into one of our high schools, so a big cluster meeting basically, were given this data about 10th graders at the high school, and they said, look at this, only 1% of our 10th graders are on grade level in math, and then only 3% of our 10th graders are on grade level in reading. And then all of the fifth grade teachers erupt in the room with, well, that's not how they left fifth grade. Maybe you should go talk to the middle school teachers. And so there was this huge kind of tension. And so I was saying, if somebody had done their research on this, they could show the progression from high school and middle school and elementary school, and they could show exactly what that data looks like. And we could talk about solutions as a whole group, and this would be a much more effective meeting. So I designed this to kind of solve that problem. So that was my favorite district project. There are more district projects in the portfolio as well. Elementary is my area, so these are probably my favorite projects. I've included some pictures here from a couple of the different projects I worked on. So these 2 pictures right here are from a career day that we hosted for our students that I helped to plan and put together. And then this is from one of our family data nights. So that's me explaining some data to a family and just helping our families understand how their students are doing in school and how they can help them to be more successful. That was one of our really big goals this year, and so that's something that I really enjoyed getting to help out with. Some of my favorite projects, this was one of my favorite projects. So I made a promotional video for our kindergarten roundup so that families were able to kind of learn about Emerson, learn what their child's going to be experiencing every day. We also translated it in Spanish because a lot of our families are Spanish-speaking families, so that was a really cool project. I got to work with our family specialist a lot on this video, and really proud of the product that I created there. This goes with the data nights that I was discussing. So I was kind of in charge of creating all of these different graphs that showed families how their students were performing compared to other students in the class, and then the lines across the graph are for grade level. And again, if you click on any of these images, it opens the document larger so that you're able to see it. And then another thing that I created was these roles for our family and student success team. So we have a licensed social worker, a counselor, and a family specialist in our building, which is really awesome. It means we have a ton of support, but sometimes it can kind of get confusing about whose job it is to do things, and things can fall through the cracks. So I created this kind of like Venn diagram that kind of shows those roles, and it's being presented to our family and student success team next week. So hopefully that will clear some things up. And then I wanted to talk about, this was my absolute favorite project that I did in my entire portfolio. I have been running Emerson social media accounts for the last 2 years. And so every single week I sit down and I look at things that other people in our district are posting on social media and look at ways that we could improve our school. It's given me a lot of really awesome ideas. And it also means that I get to share with families and our community about what we are doing in our school. So it's been really awesome. It's taught me a lot about communication. It's taught me a lot about promotional stuff, and it's actually been one of my favorite things. There's been points in the last couple of years where I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't be a teacher. Maybe I should be in district communications somewhere. So this is something that I've really, really enjoyed, and it's been my favorite project. And then finally, my secondary projects. So I also included a couple pictures down here. These are pictures from our event Bridge to Argentine, which I was a part of the planning committee for. So it's on this slide. So Bridge to Argentine, it's a transition event for 5th grade parents hosted by the middle school so that they can kind of experience what is middle school going to be like for my child. And this was the 4th year. I've been involved with it for 3 years, 2 years on the planning committee, and we've had a lot of success with the event. The event continues to grow and get bigger. We keep having to add groups because we have more families every year, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want. So I was involved with this. My role was technically called the logistics captain, which basically meant that I was in charge of figuring out what we needed volunteers to do and assigning volunteers to go do those tasks. And then during the event, I was kind of like running around, making sure that there were no problems, kind of like putting out fires. I also helped promote the event on social media by creating these little banners and Facebook events and things like that so that our families were aware of what was going on. Bridge to Argentine is, like I said, one of my absolute favorite activities that I've done in this program, and so I really wanted to kind of discuss that. I skipped over reflection, so I'll go ahead and go back to reflection. So this is my reflection for my entire master's program. So I think initially when I entered this program, I did not want to be a principal, which is kind of a funny thing to say for someone in a building leadership program, but that's never been the most appealing job in education to me. I think instructional coach would be awesome. I think that district leadership would be great. I'd love to work in education policy lobbying. I even considered nonprofits, but I never really wanted to be a principal. I had this idea that principals was all about discipline and negative teacher feedback, and I just didn't think that was something that I'd be interested in or something I would be good at. But throughout this program, I've really kind of been able to explore the role of the principal more broadly, and I've learned a lot. And I've realized that principals do education, legal work, because they're in charge of making sure that their school is legally compliant. I realized that I love community relations. I think it's such an awesome aspect of building leadership that I would miss at the district level, I feel like. And I also just kind of realized that there were a lot of things about being a building principal that I would be good at. So it was kind of interesting for me, this evolution of feeling actually, I think maybe I could do this. And so I'm still not entirely sure that, being a building principal is my life dream, but I don't look at it as all right, man, I guess to get into district leadership, I'm going to have to be a principal for 3 years. I look at it not as a dreaded stepping stone piece anymore. I look at it as something that I could enjoy and I could be good at because I do have a lot of skills that I feel are relevant. And so I think that this has been a really good program for me because I have kind of had my eyes open to what the role of a principal really is like. I also kind of want to talk about my favorite class really quick. So my favorite class was a class that I took last summer, and it was, I can't remember the name right now, AEP 859. And this was the class where essentially we said, what if school wasn't the way that we think school is? And I had never done that before. And initially I was so resistant. I was like, there is no way a forest preschool can work. We need teachers in classrooms, flipped classrooms. I'm not sure about that. All online. I don't think that's good. But it really kind of opened my eyes to the fact that we don't have to do school the way that we think that we have to do school. And I think that this idea that, we are not preparing students for 2019, we're preparing them for 2030 and beyond. And I think that that has been one of the most pervasive ideas to me throughout this entire program. So I really wanted to talk about that course and just I feel like that course kind of rocked my world in a lot of ways. It kind of blew my mind for a little while, but now it's made me more open to suggestions of, well, yes, this is the way we've always done it, but why do we do it that way? Is that the best way to do it? And I think that's something that will really, truly benefit me as an administrator. This is my activity form. And then you can see down here, I have all of these different activities listed. I tried to be really organized and list all the elementary ones, all the secondary ones, and all the district ones together so that it would be nice and organized. I have not totaled up the hours, but I know it's over 150. So just making sure that I have all the stuff in. There's also a lot of projects that I didn't choose to include in this portfolio that I